So Kartavya, you can join now.
Yes. Should I switch on?
Yes, you can. You can start. Just a minute. Just a minute. So, welcome Kartavya. So Kartavya is right now he's done his IIM Calcutta. I think PGP is completed, and he will be joining Vendes Capital in the investment banking division. He will be joining, and he holds a degree in engineering from VIT Law. So, which branch you're from?
I'm from computer science.
Kartavya, is your audio working?
Yeah, I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. So, Kartavya has already, he's a 99.8 score in CAT, and he even has a work experience from Stealing Capital Partners. So, Kartavya, this total audience would be the people who would be going for CAT 2025. So, they would like to have some guidance regarding not only the holistic and even the section wise, if you can tell. So, what exactly the people will be
Mhm.
doing right from right? It's April right now, so it's we have around 6 to 7 months till November end. So now the audience will be called you. So how many people joined? So we have many people have joined. So you can start right now, and so I will be switching my audio and the video off, and so you can carry the discussion from right now. Okay. Any questions you have?
No, that's perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hi everyone. I hope you can hear and see me. Uh, right. So I'm here to talk to you about certain strategies and not strategies, but overall the CAT examination, what it is, what in my opinion is one of the ways to optimize for it and do your best, right? I think one of the most important things to keep in mind is that CAT is different from some of the other competitive examinations that we have given. So a lot of us come from engineering backgrounds and presumably have prepared for uh, the IIT JEE exams and likes. A lot of my friends in IIM Calcutta also gave the UPSC exam, and I know of a few UPSC aspirants that then go on to give CAT exams. So you might be one of them, right? So what's important to understand is that CAT is different from them, and the best way to optimize for it. So in my opinion, the CAT exam is primarily about temperament. It's not an exam wherein you'll be tested on a whole lot of new concepts or concepts where you have to use your mind and come up with solutions to complex problems. The questions will be fairly on the easier side, of course, on a relative scale. You would know about these things. You might have already done similar questions, right? At the same time, it's not some the preparation does not require you to read about thousands of things, practice like dozens of concepts and so on. Of course, there's a decent sized syllabus that you will have to follow, but what I'm trying to say is that it's not a very tough exam on the preparation side and on the learning side. What then it becomes is a temperament exam. So the best way to prepare for CAT is to make sure that you have the right temperament while you're preparing as well as while you're giving the exam, right? And of course, to make sure that you have that temperament, you need to have done work, you need to have put in the hours, you need to have given enough mock tests, and some of these are the things that I'm going to talk to you about, right? So what do I mean by it's a temperament exam? Um, think of it as as clearing CAT requires you to give your best, and if you give your best, there's a high amount of chance that you will be amongst the top scorers. So I can guarantee that for a majority of you, once you come out of the exam and you take a day or two off and then you look at it, a lot of you will feel, irrespective of how the exam went, that if I had just sort of thought about it in the right way, thought about my preparation in the right way, and done the right things while I was giving the exam in those 2 hours, I would have definitely got a great percentile, right? And grade depends, like it might be 99 percentile for you, it might be 99.5, 98, 99.9, whatever it is, right? But a majority of you, if not all of you, will think that. Now, how do we build that temperament? So, again, there's no one answer for it, but if I have to give you a generalized answer, it's you have to work on what you lack. How do you do that, right? Again, different people have different solutions for it. Some people say that you should calm yourself, you should, as a part of daily preparation time, you should meditate, you should talk to a lot of people that have given the exam, try to figure out strategies. What worked for me the best was just taking as many mocks as I could and making sure that I did my best in those. And these mocks don't always have to be complete 2 hour length mock tests. These can also be like 40-minute sectional tests. So you take the exam, you see your score, and then you analyze. Once you do these mock tests, what becomes even more important is what you do after that. Because giving mocks is just the starting point, right? Especially in the initial days, given that it's April right now, and a lot of you would be giving exams like 7, 8 months later. What becomes especially important, what you should not do in the initial phase, is look at your percentile and look at your marks after you give the mock exam. Not because they're not important, they're very important, but simply because you can't do anything about it, right? You got a great percentile in your first mock, in your second mock in April and May. So that's great, but it was just a mock exam. You got really bad percentile. That's too bad, but you can't really do anything about it. All you should do after giving your mock exam is take some time off, take a couple of hours off or take the day off, come back to it tomorrow and just look at what questions you got wrong or what questions you couldn't do. And then figure out, are these the questions that you could have done had you A, went about the question differently, B, done more of these questions in practice, or C, simply if you had a cooler mind, right? And these are the three things: going about questions like differently, approaching the questions differently. A lot of times you can substitute values instead of like solving full-fledged questions. That's one example. Second thing I spoke of was preparing more on a certain topic. So a lot of times there are topics that you just don't understand. You've never understood it from class 10 or class 8, and you're not going to understand it now. And it's fine to skip one or two topics like that, because you can easily skip like 5 or 6 questions from a particular section and still end up as a 99.8, 99.9 percentile. So it's fine, right? But there are certain topics that you, if you had practiced 1 hour more on that topic, maybe this question would have become difficult. Identifying that after the mock exam. And the third part is whether you were cool and composed. Are you someone that once you give one section and you think it went badly, are you someone that gets perturbed by it, and then when you go on to do the other section, that is still at the back of your mind and you mess that up as well? Are you someone like that? Analyze it and then figure out how best can I not repeat that again. So just doing these things again and again will make sure that you do your best. And as I said, if it is an exam, because of the way it's structured, that if you do your best, you will end up at the top, because a lot of people, majority of the people, will not do their best. Having said that, I think I can also talk to you a bit about uh, my um my strategies for particular sections and how I went about them, right? Um, so I think, again, a disclaimer first, that I gave the CAT exam in 2022, so it's been a couple of years. If there's been a major change, I don't think there has been, but if there are changes, then please account for that. Don't take my word at face value. But I think, firstly, let's talk about the verbal section. If you're facing difficulty in verbal, if you're getting questions wrong, there are two kinds of difficulties that I know people face in verbal. One is that they don't, because they've not read enough when they were growing up, or because they have certain, some of us have certain difficulties with the English language. We're not able to understand the comprehension. We take a lot of time reading the questions. By the time we finish one passage, we realize we have just 5 minutes left, and then we're worried, and then we mark anything, right? So if you have certain difficulties with the language, then all you have to do is just read a lot. There are different things that you can read. There are essays online. There's this thing called Aeon essays, AEON, that you can read up. There are magazines like or newspapers like Wall Street Journal, etc. But you don't even have to go to that level when you're just starting. If you're really having trouble with the language, just reading your local newspapers, Times of India, Economic Times, Business Outlook, all these things, reading 2 to 3 articles a day, right? Making sure that you're trying to read things faster. You're sort of making notes of what the essay meant, what the first paragraph meant after you're done with the first paragraph, making a mental note, or just writing a sentence so that it's easier to recollect when you're seeing the questions. These things. The second thing problem that people face in verbal is I read all the essays. Sorry, I read all the comprehensions. I thought I did all the questions, but somehow the questions were all wrong. And that has just to do with enough practice. You might end up getting a lot of questions wrong in the beginning, but making sure that you analyze why you got them wrong. If there's a solution available, you might have them available in some places where you might give mock tests. Look at the solution, read the solution, try to see if you can figure out a pattern of why you're getting things wrong, and try to work on that. So these things will help you do reading comprehensions better. And the other questions that are in verbal will also be taken care of majorly if you do these. CAT is not a game of vocab. Some other competitive exams, especially the ones that you give for foreign universities, might have that element. But for CAT, you don't need to read up or mug up a lot of words. You don't need like great vocabulary. Even a decent day-to-day vocabulary will get you a good score. So that's for verbal. Um, Now, when we go to quant, let's go to DILR first. So DILR is, look, the harsh truth is that some people are just really, really good at DILR, and some people are not, right? You have to figure that out. So if I talk about my case, I during the initial mock test, I wasn't very good at DILR, but then I ended up getting the highest percentile, highest sectional percentile in DILR. And I think one of the major reasons why I did that, how I did could do that, is just practice. So I used to do one sectional DILR test like every couple of days. Doesn't take you a long time, just 40 minutes, maybe even do the 20-minute one, do just one set, a bunch of places where you can find these, and keep exposing yourself to different questions, to different type of questions. See if you can think of a pattern that emerges. Can you characterize all of these questions into particular buckets and then figure out how do you going to solve, what is your strategy to solve this bucket of questions as opposed to the other bucket of questions. And all of these are things that I can't tell you or anyone can't tell you. People can give you resources, people can give you guidance, but these are things where you have to get your hands dirty. These are things where you have to practice, and only then will answers emerge. So keep looking for those answers, keep looking for those patterns, keep looking for those errors that you're making, why you're making them, and eventually you'll realize that your scores are going up. But for the first 2 or 3 months at least from now, don't care about your scores, don't care about your percentile, don't be too happy, don't be too sad. It doesn't really matter. I've seen people that have gone from very, very low percentiles to becoming like literal toppers. Uh, People that used to do very well because they knew a few topics well, to then not even getting like 80, 85 percentile. So all of those things are very variable. Keep that in mind. Just focus on your own self and keep focus on getting those questions correct. Lastly, quant, right? Quant, to a lot of people, it feels that because they're engineers, quant's going to be relatively easier for them. And some people feel that because they're not engineers, they might have some trouble doing it. This is partially true, but I've observed the exact opposite as well. Like I've had a lot of friends in IIM Calcutta who weren't engineers but were really good at quantitative aspects, or at least the CAT part of quantitative aspects, because they could figure out some tricks. And again, like I don't have any one particular resource to recommend, because I find that like you have a lot of resources, right? You might go to YouTube, you might have books, you might have courses that you can take, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is how you go about those things, and how much work you're willing to put in to correct the questions that you're getting wrong. The questions that you are getting correct, or the questions that you anyway would have gotten correct, that doesn't really matter. But are you working on to get those questions correct that you got wrong? um, are you making those small changes wherein you can figure out why you were getting those questions wrong? I think that's the most important part when it comes to quant as well. So for verbal, as I said, read a lot and then analyze your questions. For DILR, I think you have to practice the hardest. By hardest, I mean, I don't mean like putting in 5 hours every day. I don't think that's fruitful in CAT preparation. That's my opinion. But practice half an hour DILR, 1 hour DILR every day. Focus on exposing yourself to different questions. And for quant, again, like once you have the fundamentals cleared, which is very important, right? So in that part, whether you've taken up a coaching or whether you have taken up something else, that helps. But then solving as many questions as you can and learning from your mistakes, trying to make your mistakes correct. I think that is then again important. So I think that's a bit about like my journey and any advice that I have to give you. Just a brief overview. Um, and I think now we can take some questions, right? So if you have any questions, I think, can we do that?
We have questions even in the YouTube. If you are looking at the chat, there's one question which is coming is like YMBA, like how to answer the YMBA question. How did you answer?
Uh, Understood. So again, the YMBA question is different for everyone else naturally because everyone has different backgrounds. It differs whether you're a fresher or whether you have had work ex, how long your work ex had been, what was your background, were you an engineer or were you a commerce grad? If you're a commerce grad, I mean, that's the natural second order education that you would go for. But if you're an engineer, then why did you decide to make that switch, right? Um, it comes from self introspection. So, of course, you have to be honest and agree that not everything that is honest can be said in an interview. But first, ask YMBA to yourself. Is it the money that attracts you? Is it the kind of jobs that attract you? Is it the learning from that MBA or the opportunities that it will open, you think it will open after your 2 year degree? What is it that attracts you, right? So I can speak about myself. So I realized while I was doing my undergrad from VIT in computer science engineering that economics and finance is something that I liked much more. Um, I liked the idea of finance then. I didn't know if I would really like it, but then I started reading up a bit more about it. I did my CFA level 1 exam, which is a finance exam, and I figured out I really like it. And one of the ways you can get into that domain is after doing an MBA. And parallelly, I've also had a passion for entrepreneurship. That's also something that I see myself doing in future. And MBA would expose me one to the concepts and techniques required for both of these domains, but also give me a network of people, teachers, my fellow classmates who have had some experience in these things or who align with my ambitions, and then and that would benefit for me. So this is something, even in my interview, I spoke along these lines. And I think if you ask yourself these questions, the answers become easier.
Can you access the YouTube live? Can you see the chat?
Yes, I can. I can.
So I'll just pick couple of questions and then we'll wind up. Okay.
Sure. So I see one question. Could you describe your overall study plan and timetable? Uh, Hi, Bhavisha. So, look, I started studying, I think um May. I think in May. It was in April and May that I decided I'll take up the CAT exam, right? So right around this time. And initially, just I wanted to make sure I understand where I'm at. So what are the concepts? What section is my strongest? What section is my weakest? What topics in those sections do I not do well in? What topics do I do well in? So I took about a month and a half to figure all of those things out and to understand where I'm at the preparation. And then gradually, for those 4 or 5 months, I went about like solving for the things which I think I could solve for in those 4 or 5 months, which involved like doing a lot of questions, doing mocks, as I said, analyzing them, and so on. I was also working during this time, so I couldn't study very hard. I mean, there were days where I couldn't do CAT prep, but I tried to stay connected with it. So if I wouldn't do any preparation one day, the next day I would make sure that at least I do 1 hour of prep. And every weekend I used to give a mock. So I would give a mock on Saturday, analyze on Sunday, figure out my weaknesses on Sundays, and then for the next week I would plan how I want to improve those weaknesses for the next in the next week to do better in the next mock exam. So I think that's brief on what I can do. I think we can take one last question. Um, right. So I see Abhay asking, how did you balance speed and accuracy during the exam? That's a nice question because CAT becomes to a point a game of speed and accuracy, and how do you find the right balance? So look, honestly, what I've always felt is that accuracy from your part should always be 100%. I mean, unless you're like you've made some calculated guesses and you think that out of these these like three questions, at least you're getting two correct if you do some guesswork, and that would mean you have a net positive score. Apart from that case, every question that you answer, you think is correct, right? That's why you're answering it because there's negative marking. So I know a lot of people say like speed accuracy is the trade-off is necessary, but I've always felt that accuracy is always has to be 100%, right? So what you have to optimize for is speed, and what I mean by that is not just doing questions correctly, but also which questions. Because if you identify which questions to do, you will end up doing more number of questions correctly, and that will increase your net score. So I think the key to answer your question in one line, I think the key is figuring out what topics are you better at and what topics do you take lesser time to do. So you can make a graph of topics that you score in and topics that you take a lot of time to do in. So the ones that you are really good at and the ones that you take lesser time to do should be the ones that you attempt first in the exam, and so on. I think once you do that, I think you find the right balance, and things work out well for you. Yeah, is that I hope that clarifies it for you.
So Kartavya, I think that many people's questions will keep on coming. और कभी बंद नहीं होगा.
Mm-hmm.
Great talking to you, and thanks you have taken the time for such a valuable discussions with all the experience and even us. And hoping to see you in future. Hoping to even talk to you in future with more. I think you would be having experience in investment banking and all. So just a question I had: what kind of profile you are going for? What kind of profile you would be handling? What kind of work would be there?
Right. So I will be joining the investment banking team at Avendus Capital. I'm be in their digital and technology team. So our clients would be like startups and other companies in the digital and tech domain.
Hmm.
So you have companies like Swiggy, JustPay, and so on that have been our clients. So the work essentially, I'll be joining as an associate. So you there are two parts of the work. One is you get to work on live deals. So what an investment bank does is if a company wants to raise money for their operations,
Hmm.
so we help them do that from investors,
Hmm.
as well as if a company wants to enter the market as with an IPO, we facilitate that as well. Right.
Hmm.
So as an associate, the two types of work are: one, you get to work on a deal if a client wants to raise money, then you interact with the client, with the investors,
Hmm.
you facilitate that transaction. And then secondly, you also work on a particular sector which a vendor wants you to work in. So you gain more knowledge, so you can identify more companies and help more companies. So these are some of the things that I'll be doing.
And the last question from my side, and rather this session even. Uh, what is IMC? Let's say if all the aspirants are aiming for, let's say people aim for ABC, what exactly is the core competency of IMC?
I think one is that finance as a domain is very well established over there. So you have a lot of big banking firms. You have some private equity firms on the buy side as well that come to IIMC.
Hmm.
And so that is, I think, one core proposition. So if interested in that domain, then I think that then IMC is something that you should specially target. But having said that, during the CAT preparation, I think like you probably end up targeting the top ones, and then depending on how the interview goes, you choose where you want to go. So another like last tip, what I want to give aspirants is that when you're starting your CAT journey, don't think too far ahead. Like don't think I want to go to only IIM A or B, or I won't go to A and B, I'll only go to C. Keep your options open. Like just focus on what it is today. And then eventually when you get a great score, And when you start preparing for interviews, then you have that option in your hand to choose which one you want. So I think that's one last thing I would like to say.
So, Kartav, it was nice talking to you and a very good experience for every one of us. Chaliye, nice meeting you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye bye.